Lawbreeze and Gentlegrams, in today's episode of Lawbree in Gentleland, while a couple days passed from the deranged raps and insane blast of Euphoria, the world wondered where the whack job went. Not a word heard from the womanly waist youth warrior. I'm talking about La Brianna, the man who told Kendrick to drop, cause 1 year ago today, the Toronto tough talker got more chun pan his head top. Yes, Crody, it was last year today we got 616 in LA where Kendrick sent Drake the final warning shot that he shouldn't come out to play. OVO had been infested with moles, and on this day we saw a complete reversal of the roles, cause while the Canadian clown Corcus taunted Kendrick with push-ups and tailor-made, digging himself in a massive hole, the day of 616 in LA would suck the softness out of the suing sad boy's soul. So because this song, without a hook, that cooked the Canadian crook, often gets overlooked, let's break down every bar of it like pages of a book. But first, chef up a smash of that like and subscribe button and show me how well you could really cook. Now, Lawbreeze and Gentlegrams, little did we know what we would be receiving on the day of May the 3rd, 2024. Now, I think it's very fitting that the first thing we got early in the morning was 616 in LA by Kendrick Lamar. Did he really drop this at 6:16 a.m. LA time? No, he didn't. He dropped it, according to Google, at 9:52 a.m. in Miami Gardens, which would be around 6:52 a.m. LA time. But the title of this track has a lot more significance than simply the actual hour that it was released at. If you guys are new to the channel, you could call this a panel where we pluck and parade the pathetic prom queen petition posting padre. It's also a space where we have been reviewing the 1 year anniversary of every single diss track from the Kendrick and Drake beef and giving you a brief breakdown of every single banger. Today is the day we focus on 616 in LA. If you look at every single diss song that was released throughout this battle, this one kind of seems like the least consequential. I don't know if that makes sense, but in my opinion, every diss song kind of served a purpose. This one was almost like an interlude or an intermission. Like that was the nuke to set everything off. Euphoria was the warning shot, foreshadowing Drake's actions while dissecting his character. By the way, check out the breakdown of Euphoria that I did just the other day. Meet the Grams, of course, was the rebuttal to Family Matters. And Not Like Us was the victory lap to clean up the dark mess that was the night of May 3rd. But in that case, what purpose did 616 in LA serve? To me, it kind of encapsulates the calm before the storm. Like, I think narratively, if this was the first diss song that Kendrick released, it might have made the sequence of events more interesting. Like, imagine hearing a song like 616 in LA before anything else Kendrick revealed, right? Like, it was very calm. It was him kind of contemplating what direction he should take this thing. You know, he's implying a lot about the dangers Drake may be obliviously suffering from internally within his own team and the consequences that could derive from actually going to war, you know, contemplating with God on how he should actually approach this. Imagine 616 as the first thing we got, the first message we got from Kendrick before kicking this battle off, and that leading into the calm intro of Euphoria, and then obviously the Euphoria song getting progressively more menacing and high energy as it progressed, as the different beats switched, right? I say all that to say 616, aside from being an extremely layered song, we're going to touch on, again, the entire song, break it all down. You'll see there's a lot more to this song than what you hear on the surface. But aside from that, I think it sets like a really strong introduction for where Kendrick's headspace is at and what we were about to see in literally the next 24 hours after this song was released. So again, like we did with Euphoria, there's many layers to everything from the cover art to the title of the song alone. So if you're not here for Ricch's, you might as well leave this video right now. Let's start with the title. Obviously, the way that the title is structured is a callback to Drake's famous timestamp series, right? Since 2010, in every Drake era with every Drake album, you also get an accompanying record with a title that has a time and a location. 9 a.m. in Dallas, 5 a.m. in Toronto, 69 a.m. in Diddyland, 5 p.m. outside of a high school prom. I'm joking, Drake is not a PDF. So by Kendrick titling the song 616 in LA, obviously the location Kendrick is from, but ironically also a location Drake has never used in one of his own timestamp records, which is actually funny because we'd later find out that a lot of the freaky parties that Drake allegedly had going on in his lifetime that he paid people to stay silent about, allegedly according to DJ Vlad, came from his Calabasas home, which was in LA, which Kendrick actually alludes to in this 616 in LA song. It foreshadows a lot. But aside from just being a nod to Kendrick's hometown and Drake's timestamp record theme, 616 in LA carries a deeper layer when you realize that the day Kendrick Lamar met Drake was actually June 16th, 2011. In Toronto, ironically. June is the 6th month of the year. And again, they met on the 16th day. 6/16. Kendrick actually did an interview with XXL where he detailed the first time meeting Drake. It was backstage at his first show in Toronto on June 16th, 2011. And apparently after the performance, Drake reached out to Kendrick and they met up. So Kendrick spoke about it saying, "We met up, chilled out, got a vibe, see where each other was at and stuff. Sometimes you like a person's music, but you definitely don't like the actual artist when you sit down and talk to them. That's a real good dude. He got a real genuine soul. We clicked immediately." This meeting, of course, led Drake and Kendrick to not really collaborate, but for Kendrick to actually have an entire interlude on Drake's Take Care album, the Buried Alive interlude. We're going to touch on that record and the themes in it shortly because they do tie into 616 in LA as well. But Kendrick did speak about that record in this same interview when he talked about meeting Drake, saying, "Meeting a person that's the same age as you and that moment of him pulling up in a Maybach and 40 pulling up with no doors, at that moment, you want that. You go back to this mind state where materialistic things is something that you want in your life." And of course, this meeting that Kendrick had in Toronto and the perspective he gained of seeing Drake, the same age as him, having accomplished more at that time in his career, led to the themes that we'd see touched on in Buried Alive Interlude. Buried Alive Interlude was a very interesting track, and you could kind of almost think of 616 in LA picking up where Buried Alive left off. The track depicts Kendrick reflecting on his ascension to fame and how the old him, before the vanity, before the Hollywood lifestyle consumed him, is dead at this point, buried alive. Kendrick in this song has killed off the person he used to be, trading it in for the superstar that we would see emerge very shortly after this song was released. Similar to Pimp a Butterfly, where Kendrick is confronted by Lucy acting as the devil, here he's approached by an alien, and as he says, that last year slept with a Canadian, the same year that Drake had reached his ascension to fame. It's funny, he even raps, "An alien that slept with a Canadian that gave him an addiction that keep him in Mercedes-Benz, bright lights, and Rihanna as her lady friend." He later became Rihanna's rejected Romeo. And Kendrick says, "People love when the devil is my type, and you're winning from everything that you're palm right." Basically, every rap that you spit that gets you closer to the fame can get you more interconnected, if that's a word, with the devil and everything that comes with the lifestyle of a famous rapper. And again, at this point, Drake is about a year or two into his mainstream success, being one of the biggest rappers at the time within the blog era. Kendrick is on the come up, watching Drake in their meeting in Toronto, and basically almost blaming Drake for showing him what it's like to live this famous life as a massive rapper. And again, he details his meeting with Drake, and I think these last set of bars are really interesting, so I'll read them off to you. "Me and Drake talk casually about the industry and how the women be the tastemakers for the stuff we're making. Then he said he was the same age as myself, and it didn't help because it made me even more rude and impatient. So blame it on Mr. OVOXO, the reason why I'm breathing all the vanity I know. The reason why my best friend says she loved me more than life, but I live a double life and had to let her go." Essentially, again, burying his former self and his past in replacement for this new mainstream rapper lifestyle that he's now living and he's watching Drake in the midst of. Kendrick continues, "The highlight was when Drake said, 'You belong to the people when you're outside. So dig a shovel full of money, full of power, full of pee, full of fame, and bury yourself alive. Then I died.'" Essentially, again, showing that Drake at this point in his career was so captured by the fame, by the people, that he didn't live his life by his own accords. He abandoned prior relationships, morals, ideologies, in replacement of being drowned in a basket of this materialism, right? And Kendrick is essentially saying, Drake warned him, like, once you reach this level, you belong to the people. Your soul will be in a constant fight between who you truly are and what you portray to the world, and constantly battling against the temptations that come with this newfound fame. This song was from 2011. You fast forward almost 14 years later, and you could see the vast difference in the paths that both Kendrick and Drake chose. Did either of them let the fame consume and overtake their soul? Were they buried alive, or did they always stay true to who they were before the fame? Well, now we're no longer in Toronto. We're back in Kendrick's hometown of LA, and here it is where he's reflecting on the massive shift in tides and the cost that would come with going to war and battling against the very artists that encapsulated everything Kendrick was trying to fight against when he was this young up-and-coming rapper witnessing a small taste of superstardom. And so it's very fitting that at the beginning of 616 in LA, he's actually not rapping from his perspective, but instead from Drake's, to kind of give you a time capsule of where Drake is in the current day. So this track starts off with the intro where Kendrick raps, "It's survival, survival, I think somebody's lying, smell somebody lying, I don't see no fire." Now remember again, this is a callback to Buried Alive, and here Kendrick is talking about survival, surviving through the temptations that fame could bring you. The facade that you put on when basking in the vanity of being a famous pop star. Like Kendrick says, somebody's lying. And then the beat drops and we hear this sample flip that sounds like someone is saying Boy Wonder. Now, Boy Wonder, obviously if you guys didn't know, is the name of one of Drake's right-hand producers. This sample flip works as a double entendre as well, because on Push-Ups, Drake started that track with the Who Kid drop. This was a foreshadow or a subliminal of the fact that he would later accuse Kendrick of raising a child that wasn't his, that actually belonged to his fiance and his manager, Dave Free. Hence the Who Kid. Whose kid is it? Kendrick makes a slick callback to that with his own sample flip, the repeated line, Boy Wonder. You'll see in this song that Kendrick warns Drake of there being snakes and moles within his own camp, his own people turning against him, and to take a long look in the mirror to figure out if he's fighting this battle all alone. There's a lot of things that Drake needs to sit with and reflect on and wonder. And at the same time, Drake calls himself the boy. So here you have this sample flip referencing three different things where essentially Kendrick is telling Drake or the boy to wonder, to ponder on what his next move should be. And again, also referencing his producer, Boy Wonder. And Kendrick kicks the song off with some nice double, triple, maybe even quintuple entendres, rapping Off-White Sunseeker at the Marina. F a phantom, I like to buy yachts when I get the fever. Don't forget here, he's rapping from Drake's perspective, right? This is a very similar style that Drake incorporates on a lot of his timestamp records, right? Rapping about luxurious brands and endeavors that he's on at that particular period of time. Remember, like, I'm at the Masoni room at the Bibelos. A lot of this stuff to the average ear will A, not make any sense, and B, make you feel broke. Because what type of language is this, right? When does Kendrick ever rap like this? Off-White Sunseeker at the Marina? What does this even mean? What is he talking about? Well, a couple things. Firstly, the Sunseeker is the name of a luxurious yacht. Drake has been famously known to rent out luxurious yachts, travel around the world, throw parties. In 2022, he was pictured on several different yachts with a 21-year-old model by the name of Wade Brooks. Here you could see the boy with the young model wearing none other than an off-white t-shirt. Off-White Sunseeker at the Marina. It was around this same time that Drake was yacht hopping with this woman where he was actually detained in Stockholm, Sweden the night before arriving in Ibiza. And you'll see in the next few bars, Kendrick makes reference to the yacht docking in Ibiza. Drake at the time posted but then deleted on Instagram a letter he received by Swedish authorities which said information for those suspected of a crime and subsequently detained. This was like a photo dump, so in that same post there was a bunch of other pictures and videos, one including his friend Chubbs dancing at a club in Ibiza. And the caption of this Instagram post was, I want to see Ibiza Chubbs, fam. So again, Drake is on this yacht traveling with this young model. He gets detained in Sweden, doesn't say for what, posts and then deletes the letter from Swedish police proving that he was detained and captions it saying he wants to see Chubbs in Ibiza. The night he's released from Sweden, he makes his way to Ibiza. Now, remember that because it'll play an important role in the next few bars very shortly. But first, when he says Sunseeker, he's not just referencing the yacht. Kendrick is also referencing the fact that at one point, Drake was hiding the fact from the world that he had a son, right? Initially, it was with adult film star Sophie Brousseau, and before acknowledging that this was his son, Drake, rightfully so, made her go through a bunch of paternity tests to make sure this was in fact his child, aka Sunseeker, seeking his son, seeking to see if this really is his son. Aside from traveling on a yacht with this young model, there was also the picture of Millie Bobby Brown on Drake's yacht docked at a marina back in 2017, where she captioned it saying the picture was taken by Drake. If you guys didn't know, Millie Bobby Brown and Drake have a very weird history where he, as she claimed, texted her about boy advice way back when she was around, I believe, 14. And again, she was seen on his yacht docked at a marina. Like the line says, Off-White Sunseeker at the Marina. He continues, F a phantom, I like to buy yachts when I get the fever. More double entendres here. Firstly, obviously Drake has the song Teenage Fever, which was released around the same time that Millie Bobby Brown was docked on his yacht at the marina. The Phantom is a reference to the Rolls-Royce Phantom truck, vehicle that Drake is famously known to own several of. And here Kendrick is not only saying that instead of a Phantom, instead of a Rolls Royce, Drake would prefer to buy a yacht when he gets the fever to spend, but at the same time, what is a Phantom? It's a ghost, who was known to be Drake's ghostwriter on several different reference tracks that leaked, specifically off of Her Loss, songs like Jumbotron Poppin', Back Outside Boys, Lil Yachty. This line says, F a Phantom, aka F a ghost, I like to buy yachts when I get the fever. Kendrick continues, wine cooler spill on my white t-shirt, the sightseer. Now, this is a crazy bar because when you do a little digging, the world caught on to the fact that there was this story that a woman by the name of Madison Beer had told where she was at a party hosted by Drake. I believe it was at Drake's house, where one of her friends actually spilt cocktail drink all over Drake's white t-shirt. Drake's drink of choice is known to be a wine cooler, fruity alcoholic cocktail. Remember, Madison Beer details this party that she was at where her friend spilt a drink all over Drake's white t-shirt, the same one that Kendrick is believed to be referencing in this line. But the line gets even more crazy when you think about the linkage between Madison Beer and Drake. Drake is good friends with a guy by the name of Zach Bia. Kendrick makes reference to Zach Bia later in this song, which we'll touch on, but Madison Beer and Zach Bia were on again, off again dating from late 2017 to March of 2029. If you look at when Madison Beer was born, it was March of 1999, meaning when she first started dating Zach Bia, she had just turned 18 years old. Drake and Zach Bia are friends. He is the likely connection to how Madison Beer was ever at one of Drake's parties, where she details how she brought her friends along for the ride, the same ones who spilt a drink on Drake's shirt. Now again, she only started dating Zach Bia when she just turned 18 years old. This would be around the same time, 2017, where Madison Beer was pictured on Drake's yacht. The same time when an 18 to 20-year-old Madison Beer and her friends were partying with Drake, spilling alcohol on his white t-shirt. 10 years later, he's in an off-white t-shirt, traveling on a yacht with a 21-year-old model. Kendrick is detailing all of these adventures with these younger women on this song in these first set of bars. And he continues, trifecta, money, morals, and culture, that's my leisure. Now, this is a callback to the different trifectas that Kendrick rapped about on previous diss tracks, right? On Euphoria, and like that, he shifted the trifecta ever so slightly. Like that, it was money, power, respect. The last one is better, aka the respect being better. Euphoria, he rapped, oh, you thought the money, power, and fame would make you go away? Telling Drake like, oh, you thought these three things would enable you from hiding your true self to the world, eliminating your past life, making you go away? And here he's saying, money, morals, and culture is my leisure. Here he's using this trifecta to create a satire of Drake's self-image. Rapping from Drake's perspective, Kendrick here is implying that Drake is claiming mastery over these three domains, money, morals, and culture. Kendrick, however, would undercut this claim with irony, suggesting Drake thinks he embodies these values, but really he doesn't, because him saying, that's my leisure, implies dominance or casual ownership, like money, morals, and culture are things that come easily to Drake. Kendrick is likely mocking this attitude, suggesting that Drake treats serious things like morals and culture as mere accessories or playthings, the same way money would be treated. That's why, unlike that, he said the last one is better. The respect is better than the money and the power, because that's the one that you truly have to earn. That's not something that comes leisurely, that comes easily. Also saying that Drake hides behind the money, power, and fame on Euphoria. By 616 in LA, by rapping through Drake's perspective, Kendrick is highlighting the contrast between image and reality. Drake might pretend to embody morals and culture, but Kendrick sees him as just leveraging money and influence for image, not for actual substance. The sarcasm lies in the claim to morals, suggesting that, again, Kendrick sees Drake as morally inconsistent or performative. And Kendrick is likely using this line to emphasize that while Drake pretends or believes to be cultured and ethical, he's actually just driven by the fame and comfort. It's a jab at how his hollow branding is masked as depth. And remember how on the first bar, Kendrick is likely making reference to the fact that Drake was traveling the world on this yacht, getting detained in Sweden and trying to make his way to Ibiza to see his friend Chubbs dancing. Well, on the next bar, he raps, my visa, passport tatted, I show up in Ibiza. And the way he says, I show up in Ibiza, it can almost be interpreted like, or sounds like him saying, I show Chubb in Ibiza. And he continues rapping about different spots or locations that Drake was spotted at, saying, Lucal's dwellings in Brooklyn just to book me some pizza. This is a restaurant that Drake was spotted at with the basketball star Kevin Durant way back in March of 2020. And he concludes rapping from Drake's perspective to say, who could reach us? Only God could teleport this type of freedom. Again, going back to the money, morals, and culture being Drake's leisure, here he's saying that Drake is living this easy, carefree, indulgence-fueled lifestyle that only God could bless you with. No one else can touch you. Drake at this point feels untouchable, feels like money, morals, and culture are his leisure. All this stuff is coming easy to him. He has the world, he has the culture in the palm of his hands. Now again, this is another big callback to Buried Alive interlude because again, it was on that song where Kendrick was rapping from the perspective of a young emerging superstar killing off his former self and building this ego and kind of being at a crossroads, and having Drake, more experienced with this lifestyle, guiding Kendrick on where he needs to take things next. Showing you in these set of bars where Drake took his lifestyle, and now he's about to come back into his own perspective where he begins to contemplate his own morality and integrity at this point in his career. He raps, God, my confession is yours, but who am I if I don't go to war? There's opportunity when living with loss. If Kendrick loses himself within this battle, at least he'll gain the lessons that come from going to war and seeing the type of character this conflict can create internally. Kendrick, typically being a grounded, moral-driven individual who didn't lose himself to the fame, is now questioning what decision God would want him to make at this pivotal point in time where, again, on the diss record we heard right before this, Euphoria, he's talking about, if you take it there, I'm taking it further. At this point, he's debating on, do I take it further? What are the benefits and cons to actually going full on into this war? And it's interesting because, again, when he's rapping from Drake's perspective, he's talking about leisure, he's talking about feeling free, he's talking about Drake feeling like he's morally unquestionable, if that's a word, whereas Kendrick on the other end is questioning his morals and if this is the right decision to make ethically. Who am I if I don't go to war? Who am I if I don't fight for what I believe in? If I do lose myself within this war, again, there's opportunity when living with loss. He continues, I discover myself when I fall short. I discover through my flaws the type of character I truly want to be. He continues, raise my hands to a fallen sky. I fantasize me jumping planets immortalized. I correspond 3 angels watching me all the time. A fallen sky is a term used to describe the world after a catastrophe. Here he's reaching for that war. He's stepping into it, which inevitably will have him immortalized. Jumping planets, aka reaching new heights within his career, within his influence on the culture, his legacy living on forever. And just a few bars before, he's rapping from Drake's perspective saying, who can reach us? Only God. Now from his own perspective, reflecting on the fact that once this catastrophe hits, once this war fully blows up, he'll be immortalized. He will be the one that's untouchable. The 3 angels watching him could be in reference to his fiancée Whitney and his 2 children. It also could be in reference to the 3 angels named in the sacred scripture, Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel, or even the 3 lost legends of LA, Kobe Bryant, Tupac, and Nipsey Hussle. 6/16 also being the date of Tupac's birthday. It's likely in reference to his family because the next bar he raps, put my children to sleep with a prayer, then close my eyes, definition of peace. And on Euphoria, he spoke to Drake saying, you don't know nothing about raising your son. Waking him up, know nothing about that. Then tell him to pray, know nothing about that. Here, Kendrick is emphasizing that he's at peace with the life that he built, right? Cultivating this family behind the scenes, living his life in private, not getting lost in the temptations of fame that he was battling on that Buried Alive interview where he recounts his first meeting with Drake. His definition of peace is being there for his children, teaching them to pray. He continues, tell me who gonna stop me, I come from love. Estelle covered my heart, then open me up. Estelle being in reference to a lost loved one, possibly a family member. Kendrick made reference to Estelle on his song United in Grief off Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers as well, rapping, I was 9 when they put Lamont in the grave, heartbroken when Estelle didn't say goodbye. Here he's referencing her as well, covering his heart. Again, having these angels looking over him as he's contemplating with God whether he should embark on this quest of destruction. He continues questioning again the path that he should set foot on, rapping, remember when picked up a pen, lyrics that I can trust, timid soul stare in the mirror, asking where I was from often. Here he's recounting the first time that he actually picked up a pen, and again, staring in the mirror, asking where he was from often, trying to not lose himself in the powers that come from his pen, from his talent. And even on Gloria, the song that's a tribute to his pen, to his lyrical abilities, he finishes the song rapping, "My woman in my right hand, my saint and my sin." The pen brings both good and bad, ugly, evil, and beauty. It's his saint and his sin. And he emphasizes that on the next bar, rapping, "I know this type of power is gonna cost." There's of course the downside that comes with having not only this level of skill, but the lifestyle that comes with it. It all ties back to that Buried Alive interlude and the duality of saint and sin, of both Drake and Kendrick's character in the different directions that they took with this newfound lifestyle thanks to their skill set. But regardless of the cost of having this type of power, Kendrick emphasizes, "I live in circadian rhythms of a shooting star." A circadian rhythm is basically the human body's internal clock. The way that we're kind of programmed to sleep at a certain hour, wake up at a certain hour. Our souls are inherently in this certain rhythm. Shooting stars, just like the human body, also follow a certain pattern in terms of their orbit. Comets and meteor showers, etc. A couple bars earlier, Kendrick was visualizing jumping through planets. Now he's comparing his internal spirit to the movement of a shooting star, living intensely and having this power in this life that's extraordinary, unpredictable, unreachable, and outer-worldly. Also, shooting star potentially being in reference to the fact that he's now shooting at the star, shooting at Drake. He continues, "The mannerisms of Raphael, I can heal and give you art." Here he's referencing two different Raphaels. One, the Renaissance painter who's known for beauty and grace in his art, but also referencing the angel Raphael who's associated with healing. He's saying he has the power to create meaningful, beautiful art that can heal others emotionally and spiritually. And this is the art that, again, has given him this power to jump through planets, to live in that circadian rhythm of a shooting star, but it's also the power that costs, right? There's opportunity and destruction and healing depending on what you're actually using art for. And Kendrick makes it very clear what he's using his skill set for when he emphasizes, "But the industry's cooked as I pick the carcass apart." Kendrick isn't necessarily doing this to obtain more power. He's doing this because he's upset at the direction, at the trajectory that the culture has been headed. He's saying the industry is cooked. Culture and influence that Drake has fostered by being at the top of mainstream hip-hop has cooked the next generation. And that's what Kendrick is going to war for, to shoot at the stars, to watch the party die. And then we get into the second verse where he really begins talking directly to Drake. Starting off rapping, "Yeah, somebody's lying. I could see the vibes on Ak. Even he's looking compromised. Let's peel the layers back." Here he's obviously referencing Big Mac's Akademiks, because at the beginning of this beef, that is someone who Drake sampled in his first diss record, Push-Ups. That has someone who has been at the forefront in terms of reactions to every diss song as they come out and shape-shifting this narrative that Kendrick was on the time clock. Kendrick was great at building moments, but not at actual battle rapping. Painting different narratives and, of course, reporting on this beef with a massive sense of bias towards Drake. Now, it's unclear here if Kendrick is implying that Ak is compromised in terms of being a double agent, right? Pretending to work for Drake and spread these narratives for Drake, but really working against him, because a lot of what Akademiks said did age horribly, and if anything made Drake look worse than it would have had Akademiks reported this on an equal playing field. But at the same time, he could also be saying Akademiks is compromised. He's not reporting this from an objective perspective, like one of the bigger voices within the industry should. Instead, he's concocting these narratives. And I mean, this line would age great after seeing this entire battle play out, seeing how Akademiks behaved over the next few months, and ultimately realizing that this wasn't a personality, a figure who had the best interest of hip-hop in mind, but instead pushed whatever narrative that would best serve his own agenda. So Kendrick continues, "Ain't no brownie points for beating your chest, harassing Ant. Even with good people, make good people go to bat." Here he's talking again directly to Drake, referencing the fact that before Drake even put out a diss track, he was doing a massive amount of internet trolling, exposing Kendrick's manager, Ant, and really going against everything he called Meek Mill out for at the time that they were beefing, right? Trigger fingers turn to Twitter fingers. Kendrick here is saying, you're not gaining any brownie points by harassing people that don't want their private identities being exposed. They don't want to be dragged into this. You're messing with good people. It's going to make good people go to bat. Good people go against you. He gets very cryptic in the next set of bars, rapping conspiracies about Cash Dog. That's not even the leak. Find the jewels like Cash Doll. I just need you to think. This is in reference as a double entendre to both Cash, the manager of The Weeknd, and his EXO label, who Drake had said on Push-Ups was blowing The Weeknd's cash on other guys, and The Weeknd also alluding to the fact that Drake had leaks in his operation, rapping on a Future song saying they can never diss my brothers, baby, when they got leaks in their own operations. But it's also a reference to conspiracies about cash that Drake had concocted, right? On push-ups, Drake was saying that Kendrick was getting extorted by his own label, and that there were rumors that Drake put money out to get information on Kendrick. Kendrick here is saying that's not even the leak. That's not even the conspiracy that's going on. It has nothing to do with any of the cash that you put out to try to get information on me. There's something bigger at play here. And him referencing finding the jewels like Cash Doll is in reference to the fact that Cash Doll, the rapper, had actually been the victim of a burglary where she lost about $500,000 worth of jewels, but at the same time, she had actually had an ex-boyfriend break up with her over a picture that she took with Drake. He's lining this up as a double entendre, like Drake was trying to find Cash Doll, but also she was trying to find her jewels. Remember, I don't even think we broke down the cover art of 616 in LA, but it featured a zoomed in picture of a Maybach glove. We would later see on Meet the Grams that when you zoom out, it's a bunch of personal items, prescription pills that were directly prescribed to Drake, and items that I believe his father had left at a hotel that someone had seized and leaked to Kendrick. This is likely the leak that Kendrick is referring to here. So he's saying, find the jewels the same way Cash Doll had to find items that were stolen from her. And Kendrick continues, are you finally ready to play Have You Ever? Let's see. Have you ever thought that OVHO is working for me? Fake bully, I hate bullies. You must be a terrible person. Everybody inside your team is whispering that you deserve it. Here again, Kendrick is emphasizing that there might be a leak within Drake's actual operation, and this is where he's getting the items on the Meet the Gram cover, any personal information on Drake that he later uses against him. And it's crazy because to this day, there's still so many unanswered questions about this beef, right? Who from OVO could be working for Kendrick? What is the actual information that Kendrick was holding against Drake? Last time Kendrick referenced playing Have You Ever was on Euphoria, where he said, have you ever walked your enemy down with a poker face? Have you ever paid $500,000 to an open case? What are all these cryptic things Kendrick is actually referring to, right? We still don't fully have the answers on what Kendrick is talking about in this record and on Euphoria. But he continues, can't Tootsie Slide up out of this one, it's just going to resurface. Tootsie Slide is the name of the TikTok dance hit that Drake put out in 2020, where he's referring to wearing a black leather glove, similar to the one on the Meet the Grams album artwork. On Euphoria, Kendrick rapped, keep making me dance, waving my hands, it won't be no threat. Here he's saying, you can't dance your way out of this predicament you got yourself into. That's exactly what he did with the Pusha T beef and with the Meek Mill beef, right? He dropped a bunch of summer tracks, a bunch of dance songs like Hotline Bling or In My Feelings that kind of made the world forget that he slipped up in those beefs, getting exposed for ghostwriters or hiding a kid from the world. Kendrick here is saying you can't Tootsie Slide your way out of this one. You can't just make hits and make the world think that what I'm about to do to you won't have a long-lasting impact. He continues, every dog gotta have his day, now live in your purpose. It was fun before you put money in the streets, then lost money when you came back with no receipts. I'm sorry that I live a boring life. I love peace, but war ready if the world is ready to see you bleed. This was a common tactic Drake used in both the Pusha T and Kendrick beefs, right? Trying to pay people close to both of them to get information that he could then use against them. Kendrick referenced this on Whacked Out Mural, saying, people from my city couldn't entertain old boy, promising bank transactions, even Bitcoin. If that money got in the hands of a crash dummy, could jeopardize my family and burden the ones who love me. Kendrick there was saying, if that money that Drake was offering to people got in the hands of the wrong person who was ready to expose Kendrick, it would have jeopardized his private life. But on 616, he's saying, I'm sorry I live a boring life. I'm sorry that there's not enough dirt you could dig on me. You're simply losing that money that you're putting out to try to find info on me. My people are loyal to me. But even though I love peace, I'm war ready if the world is ready to see you bleed. Then he goes on, the Elohim KTW, no you can't sleep, these images trouble you, no the wires in your circle should puzzle you. To this day, again, another cryptic thing people don't necessarily have any confirmation on. What was he referring to when he said KTW? Was he referring to the acronym Know the Wires? Regardless, in these lines, he's referencing Drake's paranoia, the fact that he tried to put money out to find dirt on Kendrick, but instead, it might be OVO that's working for Kendrick. There might be a leak within Drake's own operation that has given Kendrick information to use against him. And really, this track does a great job at the end of creating this eerie sense of destruction going on in Drake's camp internally, right? And the fact that he has to be looking over his shoulder for what Kendrick's next move would be. It really sets the stage well for what we would see in the next 24 hours after this song was released. He emphasizes that in the next bars, saying, if you were street smart, then you would have caught that your entourage is only to hustle you. 100 guys that you got on salary, and 20 of them want you as a casualty, and one of them is actually next to you. 2 of them are practically tired of your lifestyle, but just don't have the audacity to tell you. Who could this be about? Again, we have no idea. One thing we could piece together is the fact that during the Pusha T beef, Pusha had alluded to the fact that it was actually 40, Drake's right-hand producer, who was pillow talking with a woman who then gave the information to Pusha T that Drake was hiding a child. We actually didn't see 40 on much of the production of his recent album, Some Sexy Sleepy Songs for You, and that's very surprising considering the fact that every other Drake project was produced predominantly by 40. It's possible that this was one of the moles within the operation. Again, could be a reach because we have no answers on who these 20 people are that want Drake as a casualty or, one that's actually next to him. Who the hell are these people? Regardless of whether we know or not, it still paints the picture of Drake's camp crumbling right in front of his eyes. And Kendrick then proceeds to actually give Drake some advice, similarly to how he detailed Drake giving him advice on the Buried Alive interlude. Back then, Drake was the big homie, the one who had reached further heights in his career at that point in time. Kendrick now reverses the roles, saying, but let me give you some game because I could see you're my lil homie. You're playing dirty with propaganda, it blow up on you. You're playing nerdy with Zach Bia and Twitter bots, but your reality can't hide behind Wi-Fi. Remember, he's referencing the incident earlier on in this song where Zach Bia's ex-girlfriend's friend had spilt a drink all over Drake's shirt while he was living carelessly on his lifestyle of partying and yachts. And here he's back referencing Zach Bia. Also being the first one to point out the fact that Twitter bots were involved in shape-shifting narratives within this beef, right? Because before Drake had in his lawsuit that Kendrick was using bots to boost streams, Drake was actually the one that was accused of putting out a bunch of fake tweets to try to destroy Kendrick's public perception before Kendrick ever even put out a diss track. And he emphasizes that the internet trolling has lost steam. He says, your little memes are losing steam. They figured you out. The forced opinions are not convincing. Y'all need a new route. The forced opinions is in reference to the Twitter bots that would tweet out a bunch of random things to try to force the narrative to be painted in a certain light, right? Kendrick is saying, there's leaks in your camp. There's people feeding me actual information about you. They're all turned against you and you don't realize it. And meanwhile, you're out here trying to paint these fake narratives on Twitter, buying forced opinions from compromised journalists like Maul or DJ Akademiks. You need a new route. You need a new plan because at this point, this is not what's going to win you this beef, being on Twitter, having these Twitter fingers. And he concludes the track in the most scathing, disturbing way, rapping, it's time that you look around on who's around you. Before you figure that you're not alone, ask what Mike would do. Another callback to a Michael Jackson bar. Of course, we got on Like That, Kendrick rapping, Prince outlived Michael Jackson, comparing himself to Prince, while Drake often compares himself to Michael Jackson. On Euphoria, Kendrick rapped, got a Benjamin and a Jackson in my house like I'm okay. I did a whole breakdown of Euphoria and that bar in particular, so you guys can go check that out. But here he says, before you figure that you're not alone, ask what Mike would do. Remember, on the whole second half of this song, Kendrick is implying that there are leaks in Drake's camp. He is not alone here. There's people right next to him that are working against him. Kendrick here references the Michael Jackson song, You Are Not Alone. And of course, Michael Jackson also has the song, Man in the Mirror, right? Where he sings, I'm looking at the man in the mirror, I'm asking him to change his ways. Remember all the way back to Buried Alive interlude, where Kendrick is looking at himself being torn between the person who he was and the person who he could potentially become if he gets lost in the vanity of fame. Watching Drake go through that very same thing. On this track, he paints the picture of 10 years later, how Drake is living recklessly in this life of luxury and yachts, thinking that he's unreachable. By the end of the song, Kendrick exposes that everyone on Drake's team wants him as a casualty, is saying that he deserves this, right? In the middle of the song, he's talking about his own pen and the powers that it's brought him and how he looks in the mirror, asking himself where he comes from often. And he's really at the end of the song suggesting that Drake does the same, right? Ask what Mike would do. Look at yourself in the mirror and reflect on who you are, the moves you're making, what you've become, and the people around you. And proceed with caution because the next step you make will be pivotal in terms of dictating the outcome of this war. Kendrick is calculated. He's talking to God. He's meditating between the pros and cons of actually engaging within this battle. Whereas Drake, as Kendrick put it in Euphoria, is moving like a degenerate, every antic feeling distasteful, calculating that Drake is not as calculated. And here he's just warning Drake, putting him on game, since he's his little homie, that he should be questioning what the greats would do. If he really is like Mike, ask what Mike would do at a point like this where all the odds are stacked against you. All in all, just a great intermission of a song, right? And would introduce a series of events that would obviously change hip-hop forever in just less than 24 hours after it was released, right? We would get Family Matters and Meet the Grams that same night. And you could see here, Kendrick is talking about there being leaks in Drake's camp. 30 minutes after Drake released Family Matters, Kendrick was already prepared with a whole other diss track where he was revealing information that to this day we don't know if it's true, the whole daughter situation. But in 616 in LA here, he's emphasizing that Drake should be careful about the next move he makes and saying that there are very well many leaks within Drake's own operation, possibly implying that that's where he got the daughter information, if that is any bit true. Beautiful song, foreshadowing a moment that would be even more beautiful in, again, just less than 24 hours. And this was the song that really put Drake in the scope, showing Kendrick not only talking to Drake, but talking from his perspective to show the world where both of them were at in their strategy at this point in time. Drake being miscalculated, directionless, reckless, and vulnerable to leaks within his operation. Meanwhile, Kendrick sharpening his sword, talking to God, contemplating the morality behind going to war, and ensuring that he's prepared for it. This is honestly one of my favorite tracks from this entire battle, one that I revisit quite a bit. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments. Did it age well? Did it age horribly? Is it forgettable? Is it one of the most memorable songs from this battle? Do you know what the hell Kendrick is talking about when he references KTW or the leaks in Drake's operations? Drop your theories down below. Stay tuned as we will review Not Like Us next, and I will catch you guys in the next one.